Kelly, you and I have known each other, just adjacently through People Tech
Yeah.
Partners for, I don't know, 5, 6+ years. I think I
Yeah.
was at an event that you were at years ago in the upstairs of, oh, what was the fancy restaurant near the pyramid that served the best burgers and fried chicken?
I don't even know the names, both of you. I just kind of look at the address at the end of the day and I say, can I walk there or do I get a car?
Well, and it was a nice free meal too. It was something tavern.
Oh, Wayfair,
Yeah,
potentially.
Wayfair. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There you
Yeah.
go. I knew it was in there somewhere.
There we go. I remember like that may have been my first opportunity to be in the same room as you and with you leading part of the discussion. And I was like, wow, like Kelly's good. She knows her stuff. So since then, I have, of course, like progressed along my fanboy-ness and listened to every one of your HR Heretics episodes and just like follow you. I don't know if you know how many, fan boys and girls you really have out there.
No, not at all. I don't.
A lot though. I mean, I met you, Kelly, through the Felicis Ventures Next Gen program as we were
Yeah.
putting that together.
Yeah.
And we're connected because when we asked like Colleen McCreary and Chris Tobin and all of these folks, like, who's a people leader we have to talk to, who's amazing? They were like, Kelly, you have to talk to Kelly. And of course, we got on the phone and I was like, she's awesome. And I immediately understood why they were so excited
Yeah.
for us to
Yeah.
connect. And so we're really excited to have you on the podcast today to be able to share more and more of that wisdom. I'm guessing
Yeah.
some people know you from HR Heretics, but for anybody in the audience who hasn't come across you yet, could you share a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, yes. First of all, so happy to be here. I've known both of you for years, also fans of both of yours. And I always say we're all in this together. So very happy that we're doing more of these podcasts and shows and get togethers and just getting this stuff out there in a way that's, real, helpful, and semi enjoyable. So I'm, Bay Area native, I guess a rare native at this point. I grew up on the peninsula, San Carlos. I live in San Carlos. I have left, yes. I went to San Diego for a while. So really a California kid. I've been doing tech stuff for, I think, a little over 25 years now. So I was lucky enough to fall into tech early. I think I was 20, 21 or 22 when I jumped into it. And it was just a wild ride ever since. Just jumped in that boat, like always, through a very lucky, like random connection. I was paving the street, right? Like knocking on doors, trying to network, get started. I mean, all that stuff that you do. And it was around 2001, 2002, which was not a great time. But you learn and you get in there, and I kind of never said no ever since. It was like, I'll do anything, give me any job. I was at Intuit for about 5 years, went to Yahoo for about 5 years, learned a lot about scale and kind of the military training of HR, if you will, between those two companies. Built great functional communities, learned a little bit, failed a lot. And then I got bored, kind of intense, high energy, attention span's not very long. So jumped into venture for about the last 16 years. So been building, very wild rides like early GitHub days, Looker, most recently Pendo, and just started at Supio, which I don't know if a lot of people know, but I'm about a month in at Supio. It's a, Series B legal tech AI organization. So this is kind of like my sixth or seventh CPO-ish role.
Did you intentionally go into HR or was it falling into it because at the time you were just looking for a job and it happened to be an HR one?
No, I'm a rare intentional HR person. So I'm like a science data geek, math geek. So I was pre-med for 2 years. I wanted to be a doctor ever since I was like 10 years old. And that was going well up until, my second year of finishing organic chemistry. And I kind of loved my teacher. I went up to her after the final. I'm like, listen, I'm not going to see you again. She's like, no, no, stay. I'm like, I can't. So I basically, in that year also was blending in some business courses, some psychology courses. Didn't really know what that meant. I think I was just learning PowerPoint at that time. One of my teachers said, have you heard about this area called industrial organizational psychology? And I was like, what? I was like half hungover. It was like a Friday. I'm like, say that 10 times fast, kind of thing. And it was perfect for me. It was one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, it is the perfect blend of business and people, because I do love people, but I don't need to like listen to them horizontal on a couch for 4 hours. And I love business and I love entrepreneurialism and I love building, but I do not like accounting and kind of that deep area. So it was a brilliant blend. It was perfect for me. And so I just jumped into grad school for it right after college and off we go.
Amazing. I'd love to maybe fast forward a bit to Supio since you are a month in. Congratulations on the new role.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's interesting, you've been in interim roles in the past few years. You've been in-house a lot. How do you think about the differences between interim roles versus full-time roles?
Yeah, I mean, you sent me a great pre-brief, Jess and Andrew, and one of the questions was like, what have you 180'd on or reversed on, in the past few years? And this is probably my biggest one. And maybe a lot of you can relate, but it's like, the story you tell yourself is I'm gonna grind, I'm gonna get my butt kicked for 20 years, I'm gonna blah, blah, blah. And then I'm gonna pull back and I'm gonna work part-time or I'm gonna consult. Have you guys thought of this in your head? You have to. Yeah. Come on. That's what I thought in my head. And so that time came for me about a year and a half ago when I exited the role at Pendo and I tried it. And I did a lot of it and I did it well. I had like 8 coaching mentorship clients, a couple equity advising stints, which I still do a little bit of because I do enjoy it. And then an interim, CPO role at Quizlet. And this is what I learned. And it took me to do this to learn it is you have to be clear on what your differentiators are. Like we all kind of have, presumably a technical functional foundation in this craft, this area, whether it's HR or people, whatever people call it now. And someone asked me, like, what is your differentiator? And my differentiator is like being inside of a company, working and catalyzing people and building relationships in a way that I can just change the course of things, whether it's actions, behaviors, business decisions, organizational pieces. Like my differentiator is an energy and a way to connect with people where you're part of this like long-term camaraderie based situation that can build trust and really be kind of a founder whisperer. That's like literally what makes me, I think, different and better than some other folks, and other folks are better than me in different ways. But I realized that differentiator is best applied inside of a company. It is very hard for me to reconcile that differentiator with being like a consultant or a fly in, fly out, or a coach where I can do that, but I can't like do it all day, every day. So I changed my mind on it. I was like, you're wrong. Like, that's not what you were kind of built for. So here I am a month back in the masochistic seat of building again at a post Series B, 130 people. I'm not going to disclose the finances, but it's my earliest one that I've done. And I'm like, this is what I'm kind of made for. So that was a 180 for me.
I'd love to peel that back even a little bit more. I love that you're sharing the thought process, you're sharing where you've been. I mean, Jess and I have different flavors of the same thing where we've both been in-house for a long time and multiple times, and now we both have our own practices doing like advisory, mentoring, consulting, the different stuff, but it's all in the same vein. Is it easier? Is it harder? How's it different coming back in-house at this point of your career, knowing what you know now?
It's a great question. Actually, Andrew, I don't think it's easier or harder. It's the same. These companies are like kids. It never gets easier. The phases just change. You know what I mean? Or the flavor of culture or the business model or the challenges or the people, the quirks of the leaders, right? All those things don't make it easier or harder. It's just different. The thing that I think actually is easier, if I had to pick one, is the learnings from the successes and the failures. It makes it a lot easier to pattern match. It makes it a lot easier to look around corners and tell stories and share learnings that you didn't have 10 years ago. And it's not in a weird way because no one likes this. Well, I've done this and back at this company, like no one likes that. But it's in a way where it just gives more context. And you might still make the mistake. You might still make it the decision that isn't the best decision. That's okay. But you're able to kind of bring a lot more to these organizations than you were 10 years ago. And that's really fun.
Yeah. As you were looking for this next opportunity, this next adventure, what did you prioritize? And in particular, I'm curious, like, what did you look for in the leader that you would be partnering with in the CEO?
Yeah.
Because I think that's oftentimes one of the most critical relationships in an organization. And for somebody who's done it multiple times over, and you're mentioning pattern matching, what are some of the things that you're like, okay, here's the fit for me, and some of the identifiers that gave you this idea, like, okay, this is going to be a place I want to place my chips?
Yeah. Well, I think we all know that, like, those of us that, again, stupidly do this multiple times over, we don't look for these roles. Like, I wasn't like, I'm going to look for another role. That's just not how it happens.
I'm assuming there were like lots of people banging on your door, and I'm curious, like, how did you say, okay, this one, let's explore this, and I'll actually think about it seriously?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the fun part about, like, being out of it, is that you're kind of telling people, don't bang on my door. And so, like, the ones that do are not executive recruiters. The ones that do are, like, trusted folks from your networks, usually through friends like you both, or VCs that you're really close to, right? So I'm kind of like a Sapphire family member at this point. I love Sapphire Ventures. They're great people. This is my third Sapphire portfolio company. So I stay really close to them. I talk with a lot of their, founder CEOs, their CXO leaders. I just like the way that they approach things. So it was really a random introduction, like I said, 9 months ago. And Rajiv's like, hey, you got to meet Jerry. He's a great guy. They always say that, right? Great guy or great gal or great person, and curious, learning, building something that's like differentiated. And so when those people come to me, I listen to that because they know me, right? They've known me for 9 years. They know, like, how I tick. They know the type of people that I mesh with, where I'm effective, where I'm less effective. It's almost like having like a personal recruiter that sifts for you, so to speak. And so when you're talking to these folks, you know that you're most likely going to jive with them versus not. So that's helpful. And then the second thing, the same thing happened with Todd over at Pendo. You stay in touch with these people and you build a relationship with them over a period of months. It's not like, let's have a accelerated interview and like speed date and then get married. This is like, you are pulling and prodding and poking these people for 6 to 8 months before you go to the altar. And that's a great way to kind of go through the fire and test if it's going to work or not, because that's where the tests are, usually when there's disagreements or difference in philosophy.
Are there specific things that you look for as you're poking and
Yeah.
prodding?
Yeah. So I look for I call it the trifecta. And I think it's really rare to have all three. I've only had it a couple times in my career. My number one now, just because I'm, tired and older and don't have patience anymore, is just the people and the human aspect of these folks. Are they genuine humans? Are they reasonable? Are they rational? Do I like to work with them? Do I enjoy talking with them? Do I feel like they have good judgment, and good ethics and similar values? So that's one, right? Which is kind of the culture environment, that the people I'm going to live with. That matters more to me than a product. And frankly, it matters more to me than like a specific mission. Just me. So that's the first one. The second part of the trifecta is the business opportunity and the product market fit and the TAM. Is the product market fit there? Is this thing good? What does it do? Does it differentiate in some way? Does it change people's lives or the world in some way that's like, everyone has to have it? The third, and this is personal to me too, is just the competitive nature of the place. Like, do they want to win? Is it going to be intense? If you're going to go in there and do something to this level of intensity, like, I want to win. It's not as fun if you're like, the ship's going down, but it was a great ride and a great place. Like, if you have all three. And I don't know about you both. I mean, I think a lot of companies in the last 16 years in my time in venture are lucky to have two of the three. Like Hired. I was at Hired. If you remember the old recruiting platform, Hired, probably one of the best cultures I've been a part of. It was incredible. We're still close with a lot of people. That was some of the best culture work I've done. The ship's going down, but it was a great, great ride and a great place. Like, if you have all three. And I don't know about you both. I mean, I think a lot of companies in the last 16 years in my time in venture are lucky to have two of the three. Like Hired. I was at Hired. If you remember the old recruiting platform, Hired, probably one of the best cultures I've been a part of. It was incredible. We're still close with a lot of people. That was some of the best culture work I've done. TAM sucked and the business model just went to crap. That's not fun. So you learn from this, you learn from this. Looker had all three. Looker was one of those places that had all three. GitHub was a place that had two of the three, and culture was not one of them, but it didn't matter. Product was a kamikaze, so that's just how I make sense of the world, is those three buckets, and kind of what does that look like? And sometimes it changes for your tenure, it can evolve. So hopefully that's helpful, Jess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And super helpful to those HR folks that are in market. Maybe they're in a job today, or maybe they're not, but they're considering opportunities. And what sort of framework could they use?
Yes.
Could they leverage yours to assess opportunities?
Yeah.
Actually, I'd love to go a little deeper in that direction. One of the specific areas that I'm hoping this podcast covers repeatedly is how to help HR professionals grow their own careers. How do you pick the right job? We just talked about that. I'd love, if you're willing to share, if you could talk a little bit about like what sorts of skills and experiences, like if you're a mid-level career professional that wants to have the same sort of trajectory that you've had, that really wants to hit the growth curve in a big way, where would you suggest HR professionals go, and what types of things should they do to grow?
Yeah, it's a great question. I didn't always think about it this way, but it's a similar kind of three-part framework. I would summarize how I've always thought, and whether I was intentional about it or not, it's what I always did since I was, again, 21, like going into it, is one, kick ass in your current job. Just do it so well where people are coming to you regularly to ask you to help them or to take on other things. And when you're that go-to person, you just say yes. Again, I was a baby, just flying around into it, saying yes to everything. I ended up doing, for example, like the company level HR metrics every other week for the CHRO. That is a visibility that like happens, and it wouldn't have happened if you weren't doing your original job very, very well. So I'd say number one, do that and don't be obsessed with the next thing too prematurely. The second is, when you're doing your job very, very well, make sure people know about it and you're getting out there. And the trick here is not to be annoying about it, or like, bragging about it or anything like that. What that looked like for me is, I still remember this. I was, again, 21, 22, and I would just ask all these VPs to lunch. I'm like, hey, John, it's incredible. Like, I want to learn about this. It is amazing how much people will help you and listen and, pay attention, and the value you get, not just doing that, but you're helping them. You're like a resource to them. Now you're a go-to for them. But you know what happens with that? You don't even realize it, because I do it now to like early career people that ask me. I'll just involuntarily like talk about this person to other people. Do you know what I mean? It's like the opposite of out of sight, out of mind. Like all of a sudden these VPs, they're like, oh yeah, you talked to Kelli. She's over on the HR side. You should talk to her. Like, and all of a sudden your name starts floating. And this is how that happens. And when your name starts floating, people are like, not automatically, oh, she's great. They ask other people, what does she do? She's a rock star, does her job really well, does other stuff. So they start to like compound with each other. Another example of getting out there is when you're, emerging your career, take a risk, speak on a panel, like ask to be a part of a conference, ask to be on a podcast, ask to host something, again, getting out there and talking about it and promoting that, again, in a way that's genuine and not annoying. And a prerequisite to be doing that is to do your job really well, because if you're not good at what you do and you go do that, it's not pretty, So again, it's like in order. The third thing is to always help other people. The bullshit meter is very strong, I think, in this industry. It always has been, and I do think it always will be. And everyone can sniff out when you're a taker and you're looking to take. Gotta help others. Altruistic nature and genuinely wanting to like lift up others versus the opposite. So I'd say those three things, right? Kick butt in your job, promote it, and get out there in many capacities and help others along the way.
That's a great framework. And, I started my career at big companies, and you did as well. And so it's nice to get that sort of special nugget of, if you're in an enterprise organization. That's how you get known in a big company. But at the same time, you balance that with,
Yeah.
if you're in a small org, you might be the head of the function at 20 something years old. And chances are you have a vendor who would be happy to put you on a webinar or invite you to a dinner, or like those are other ways to get known. It's getting known by people that might want to work with you or hire you or are interested in what you're doing. It doesn't have to be inside your company. Like consciously build your network and raise your profile. That's so awkward for people in the HR role. It's so awkward.
I think the way that you're positioning it, Kelly, is exactly right, which is like you come with a lot of curiosity about like, what does the person do and how does their business or function work and like, what do they care about? And I think when you have that genuine, authentic, like, hey, how can I actually help you? Right? Like they are at the same time helping you as an HR person to better understand the business, be more oriented towards what's actually important and like kind of get out of your headspace as well. And I
Yeah.
think whether you grew up in HR or you grew up outside of HR, as I did, it's like at the end of the day, the most effective people leaders are the ones who really understand the business and understand what their leaders need and want, and that the HR function's there to help them elevate and accelerate what they're trying to do. And so, like asking them to lunch, I think absolutely seems intimidating to early career people, but it's brilliant. And I think if you come in with a sense of curiosity, it kind of takes down that level of
Yeah.
nervousness.
Two very tactical, like practical examples. One is, the past 3-4 years have been pretty brutal. The job market, layout. I mean, we all know this. It's just the simple things like someone sends me a LinkedIn message asking for help or 10 minutes, or, hey, do you know anyone at Rippling? My answer is yes. And a lot of people will just let that message go by, especially if they don't know that person. I spent a lot of time just connecting people and giving advice and hey, 10 minutes on the phone, walking the dog, like do it. Put your AirPods in. You don't have to hear the barking. You help someone. Like, and I'll be honest with you, like 2 of my clients came from those interactions. I didn't expect it. I didn't even talk about it. But then they got gigs and they needed help and blah, blah, blah. And this is how the world works. The other thing, not to make it awkward is, it was a Google Sheet for years. And my wife made me open a Monday.com account because she said it was like backwards, but I like the Google Sheet better. But I have like 2,000 of my best friends in this database. And I don't do it because it's something that I'm trying to like work people or whatnot. I do it so I can like figure out who I can help, what people need. And they're all categories. Like you guys are in there, you're executive coaches, right? So it's executive coaches, executive search, talent leaders, people leaders, CXOs, board members, VCs. It is a really great way to organize everyone you know for different channels. Make sure that you're catching up with people, right? Like I might have reached out to you 2 a year ago. Hey, what's up? How you doing? What are you doing? I don't really want anything. Friend asked me last week, who's your best exec searches for CFOs? I got to hire a CFO. Let me just organize my Google Sheet by exec search, CFO, boom, here's 4 of my favorite like search firms. You're helping people and it comes back, one way or another.
That's so much of a twofer, Kelly. I love that, you're combining help others with raise your profile. Like paying it forward and doing good for others is the best way to raise your profile and have others appreciate you and like genuinely do good work in the world.
Yeah.
And I guess I'd double down on, you don't have to be super senior. You don't have to be a
No.
chief people officer to
No.
do something helpful for someone.
No. If I was an HR manager at a Series A company, I'd go to every community event I could or dinner that I'd get everyone's name, everyone's contact. I'd follow up with every single one of them within 2 weeks after, have a quick 30-minute chat or whatnot, throw them in your database. Now you have 50 new friends.
There you go.
Ask them to introduce you to 2 people. That's 150 new friends.
Yeah.
There's too many friends, at some point, but
well, not possible. Not possible to have too many friends. Yeah, I guess we all benefited from a professional peer community, people tech partners, right? And that like was the reason, that was the venue and the vehicle and the opportunity for us to get together and get to know each other a little bit better. And that's created just this amazing ecosystem around it. I'm trying to do that on a smaller scale now 10 years later with People Leader Accelerator. And then there are folks like Startup Experts and there's Troop HR and There's some other groups out there. I think we're all doing good things in terms of bringing people together.
Yeah. And helping each other out. Hey, come on the podcast, come into our cohort and speak, like I did 8 months ago and worked with one of your clients. So I think it's very valuable and frankly, just a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, as I'm listening to you distill it into like almost a formula, I was like, yeah, actually, 10, 15 years ago, that's what I was doing, but unintentionally. Right. And so I think you giving these gems of wisdom in such a synthesized way is amazing to be like, yeah, you can actually be pretty intentional about building it out. I think sometimes it's hard to think about the proactive elements of what you can be doing.
Yeah.
And if 50 is too many, to 5 or
Yes.
2 or even 1, and those like seeds to be planting, you can cultivate over the course of your career. I love how you synthesize some of these learnings. I'm curious, as you're going through onboarding with your company right now, month 1, when you approach onboarding at a company, and I know you've had like kind of the long game, it's been 9 months, you've been getting to know them, but as you think about folks in our audience listening, many of them are in the midst of transitioning or finding new roles or starting them. What are sort of the pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who's going into a new role as a people leader at a Series B company?
Yeah, for sure. And we just did like a 25-minute segment on this. I think it was 3 weeks ago on HR Heretics. So if you want deeper, like feel free to look that up because I'm going through it now. The reality is like the first 3 or 4 months of this process is intense, just in my own opinion. If you're going to do it right and do it well, you're just going to get laid out. It's kind of like you're running on the hamster wheel at 3x speed for 3 to 4 months. And then if you do that really well and nail it, you get to run on it at like 0.7 speed versus the usual 1.5 speed forever. How's that for a formula? And what that means to me is 4 things, right? 4 things, which is it's a lot. And the hard truth is you have to do all 4 of them at the same time. And I believe you have to do all 4 of them within 3 to 4 months. And that's where the hamster wheel comes in at 3x speed. If you do that, your life is actually better for the long term versus it's kind of crappy forever because you're just in this thing. The first one is building, again, trust, credibility, relationships. I don't mean that in a trite way with the C team. Like I'm going to sit down with every single employee at Supio one-on-one and just demystify what I think, the terrible function of HR is that maybe some of them have in their head, who I am, how I approach it. Like that just lets so much air out of the balloon up front. It makes you approachable. It shares your point of view. Most importantly, it helps me learn the business. Hey, what do you do? How does it connect? How does the machine work? Like I've never worked in legal tech, right? I need to understand how this thing runs. It's a bunch of different things. And you're getting a good dose of the culture and kind of diagnosing some gray areas that might not be easy to see. A lot of those folks have already asked me for follow-up chats. Great, let's go deeper. Like you become ingrained and a part of the whole team, not just the executive team, which I think is very critical to win hearts and minds and like catalyze a company. So that's one. The second is you have to catch some stuff that's needed to do. Like what is some pain they've been feeling now? What are the storms happening that you can help alleviate where they're like, I'm so glad you're here, right? If you're getting, I'm so glad you're here in the first month, it means you're solving some of these things that are like just thorns in the side. I don't care if it's like a certain search, and recruiting, or it's a bunch of performance stuff. It's just been kind of going around and around. I mean, it could be a multiple of things. The third is why you're doing those 2 things, if that wasn't enough, you have to start thinking about the long term. How does this stuff tie into where you're trying to go with this people strategy? How does this stuff fit in, even if it's tactical and it's right in front of your face and it's never stopping? It has to connect to something bigger as far as what you're trying to push this organization, this culture, this talent to, that connects with what you're trying to do with this business. So you have to put that together at the same time and connect the 2. And then if that wasn't enough, you have to start figuring out your own house. Because if you don't build the scaffolding around your own house, why this is all happening, you're getting a lot of accolades and you're getting a lot of like, so glad you're here. And then you're just going to like collapse and die because you're not building your team because you can't do this forever. So I'm like literally searching for 3 or 4 roles right now, my own team, while I'm doing all these things. So that's like the 3X. And then you get a couple hires on, you nail a couple short-term wins. You're halfway through the organization. You're getting comfortable. You're meeting with people. You're starting to like put together your kind of board deck or your strategy or QBR. Then it becomes like 2.5x speed. And then a little bit while later, it becomes 2. And then if you do it really well, a good friend of mine told me that the chief people officer role in a company can actually be the easiest job that someone can hold. And everyone's like, you have a worse job. I'm like, it can be the easiest job if you do it right, smartly. But I didn't tell them that. I'm like, yeah, it's terrible. It's a terrible job. Be nice.
I've never heard it called the easiest job. So I think we're all like, oh my gosh, this is the secret playbook coming forward.
It can be. It definitely can be. And it becomes fun. And you can start to spend more of your time innovating and hanging out outside the company, right? Telling everybody what you're doing at Supio and how wonderful it is and your culture. And then the brand goes in a certain way and the talent goes. It's really cool how these things connect.
We talk a lot about prioritization and People Leader Accelerator and the Eisenhower matrix with like impact versus urgency. Or, you can, set up your 4-block any way you want, but so many of us are stuck in the day-to-day fires of the moment and we don't do the longer term investment things. And like, I'm looking at the list, like 3 out of the 4 things that you mentioned were medium to long term.
Yes.
Right. And so that's what it takes is an investment in the future to do really well. Kelli, I know we're going to lose you in a minute or in a couple of minutes. We have a couple, we call it the accelerator round. We have a couple of very quick questions that we're hoping we can get through while we have you. All right. 1, what sources would you recommend our audience of mid to senior HR professionals could learn from?
Again, this is my personal opinion. I've never learned by books. Personally, I'm not let me read a book and a theory, a model. I like in the moment jump in the pool. So I will, as I mentioned earlier, I'll learn more by talking to 15 people than reading a book. Second is I really do think the podcasts that are out there now, not all of them, the ones that leave you being able to like touch and feel something versus just theoretically talking about it, those are really good because they can help you feel like you're doing the job in certain areas, not just listening to like the Charlie Brown voice around this or that. Those are good to seek out. I like that. But non-HR pods are very good too. So Acquired, This Week in Startups.
I listen to Dry Powder, which is a private equity podcast.
Yeah. All in. Those people bother me. I would love to talk to Chamath one day, but they do talk about stuff that's somewhat helpful on the tech side. You could just fast forward through all the other crap.
Question 2, if you have 1 sentence of advice to share with an HR professional about how to accelerate their HR career, what would it be?
Try the yes and versus the no. Be open. You know what I mean? I tell a lot of people I like to bend rules more than follow them, things like that. Work with the business. Someone told me once a long time ago in the corporate HR world that I was in that I accent too much to the business and the business leaders instead of the HR side. And I was like, yeah. And it literally was like the key ingredient to why founders want to work with me, I think. So
Love it.
Yeah.
Finding a balance for sure.
Yeah.
Last quick question. How can our listeners connect with you?
Oh, I love LinkedIn. Yeah, check it out. My website's just my name.com. My email's on there. That's cool too. We have a sister podcast to you both, and I think we're all doing good work and trying to get stuff out there. So I appreciate it.
I bet there are some people that want to make your list, that want to make your friends list. So look out.
Yeah. I love it. Monday.com has an infinite number of rows, so we can add you.
Well, Kelli, thank you so much for joining today. It sounds like for anybody who would love to work with you full time, there are roles open right now, so they should be checking out the Supio Careers website. Listening to HR Heretics, I'm a huge fan as well of the show and you and Nolan. But as always, just a wealth of wisdom, and we appreciate you and we appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, you both too. Good to see you.